Let's get another button on this form that will allow us to display all the flavors of the jelly beans. I'll copy and paste one of the buttons we already have and then give it a new name and some new text. So again, the idea is to display the flavors. I'll call this BTN display flavors and change the text to reflect that. And I'll put the ampersand in front of the D on this. Haven't used that yet. So display flavors. And the idea is that we can show the users all the flavors of jelly beans we have at the jelly bean store. That's going to require a loop. Now, it won't really matter what index we're at. We have to see every single flavor in the array. So this is a great candidate for a for each loop. So we'll start with for each. And then in parentheses, it's a string array, so we'll have string, I'll call it FLVR, in the array flavors. FLVR will take on the characteristics of every element inside this array. It will become each one of them, or a copy of each one of them. So again, this loop is going to go through all the flavors in the flavors array. And FLVR will become a copy of every element in the array. And I'll display that in this message box. Simply put FLVR. And maybe put a little caption for it to let everyone know it's a flavor in the jelly bean store. And let's check this out. We've got to fill the store with some jelly beans. And now we can display the flavors. I forgot to change the tooltip on that. Sorry. Made a mistake. All these flavors come up. Now let's put a breakpoint and take a closer look at what's happening with FLVR and the array flavors. So we'll put in some jelly beans. Click display flavors. Again, sorry about not getting the tooltip adjusted. And we're going to come down here to this debugging area where we can watch variables. So get rid of the ones from a couple days ago. We don't need those now. I do want to watch FLVR, so I'll right click on that and add watch. And I want to take a look at the array flavors. You'll notice it shows that it's a string array with a length of 5. I'll right click on it and add watch. And there's a little tab over on the left, that little triangle. When you click on it, now you can see every element inside the array. Slide this up so we can really see everything all at once. So FLVR is already orange, and you can see all the elements inside the array of flavors. It has a length of 5, and it goes from 0 to 4. So as we go through this loop, you'll notice how FLVR will become a copy of every single one of these elements in the array. It just became lemon, which is at index 1. And then FLVR shows up in our message box. We'll keep taking steps, and now FLVR is cherry, the next element in the array. We keep going through the loop. We're back at the top. FLVR now is lime, which is the next element in the array. And then we hit the last element in the array, strawberry. So FLVR has become a copy of every single element in the array, which was very handy because then we could display it in the message box. So we could see one element at a time there. But maybe you'd like to display all the flavors at once. Well, we can do that. We'll put that in a message box also. So we're going to create a single string that will hold all the information. We'll just keep adding to it. And in the end, we'll display it in the message box. So going to declare a string variable, I'll call it jelly bean flavor info. And I'll have it start with an initial value of a heading that can appear at the top. So I'll put the jelly bean store flavors, and then a new line character. That's, yep, the \n. Then I'll put a plus sign. And I could keep going on this line, but I think I'll drop down a line so I can kind of see what's going on. And I'm going to put some symbols underneath this. I'll use equal signs. You could use whatever you want or not use anything at all. It's really up to you. Because of the font that's being used here in Visual C# by default, I'm putting a lot of equal signs here to make them kind of match up, but they're not really going to match up. Not every letter is the same width. It'll still look okay. And then going to need a message box to display everything at the end. So I'll cut that one out of the for loop and put it down here. And simply going to put jelly bean flavor info. I want to test out what this message box looks like right now, so I'll comment out the loop, even though there's really nothing in there, but not a bad habit in case I did have some code in there. And we'll see how this message box looks so far. Throw in some jelly beans. A lot of strawberry. And that'll be okay. And then the plan is to list every flavor on its own line underneath that. New line characters will help us out. Get the loop back into action now. So inside here, we'll have jelly bean flavor info plus equals, because we're adding to it. Just like you can keep adding with a running total of numbers, we can do it with strings also. So I want to add a new line character before every flavor, so they go to a new line. And then each flavor is FLVR. As we've already seen, FLVR will become a copy of each element in the array. So by the end of the loop, it's become everything with a new line character in front of it. Now when we display the flavors, there we go. That's all one string in the message box created by using a for each loop to visit every single element in the array to create that string that we could put in the message box. And a for each loop again was fine because we needed to see every single element in the array. It didn't matter what the index was for anything. But if you choose to also include the information about the number of jelly beans, now we've got two arrays, and now it will matter what the index values are. Because we have these parallel arrays, we have to make sure we're using the same index for each one. So I'll comment out the for each loop and bring a for loop. It doesn't matter which array I use here in this middle argument because they should be the same length. So I'll just go with int x equals 0 as the initial value, x is less than flavors.length, and then increment x up by 1 with x plus plus. We'll use one for loop to get through both arrays. So we're still creating a string with jelly bean flavor info, and we'll use plus equals because we keep adding to it, or concatenating it. So the new line plus flavors with the index of x, which will be 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. And then we also, I'll put a colon and a space, we also need num of jelly beans at the index of x. And now we'll not only get the flavor in the first spot, but the number of jelly beans in the first spot. At index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, and index 4. So let's fill in some values for the jelly beans. Got a lot this time. And now we have both pieces of information in the message box. Let's put a breakpoint in here and take a closer look at what has been going on. So once again, we've got to put in a bunch of values for the jelly beans. Click Display Flavors, and I'll take FLVR out because I'm not using it now. And I'll put in num of jelly beans. I'll right-click on it and add watch. Notice that it says it's an integer array with a length of 5, which is what we're expecting. And you can click the little triangle tab over on the left for both of them, and you can see all the elements. And you can see how they correspond to each other. Orange is in the 0 index spot, 100 is in the 0 index spot. So if you ever need to check out what's going on inside of an array, you can add watch, and then if you need to see an individual element, click the little triangle tab on the left. A very common mistake that happens with arrays is an out of bounds error, or off by 1 error, or out of range error. So I'll make x less than or equal to flavors.length. That's going to cause problems. We'll get some number data. Display flavors, and ruh-roh, it crashed. We can see we are outside the bounds, or out of bounds, just like being out of bounds in basketball is a violation. We're out of range. X has made it up to 5, but there is no element at index 5 for either array. They have lengths of 5, but you notice that the last element, of course, is 4. We start counting at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 is a length of 5, but there is no element 5. We're out of the bounds of the array, or out of range of the array, or sometimes it's called an off by 1 error. You're probably going to make those errors somewhere along the way in your programming career, probably very soon. I still make them sometimes. So when you get that error, that means that you've gone outside the boundary of the array, you've used a value that's higher than any available index for the array. That's what you need to look back into your code and try to figure out where the mistake was made.